The Leadership Pipeline book by Ram Charan, Stephen Drotter, and Jim Knoll has sold more than 250,000 copies around the world to date. It is based on work originally done by Walter Mailer and Stephen Drotter at General Electric, and later expanded to and tested in more than 80 companies. Today, a significant number of Fortune 500 companies have successfully implemented the Leadership Pipeline Transition Principles as their main platform for selecting and growing leaders at all levels. The set of Leadership Pipeline Transition Principles is perceived as one of the most influential leadership models through the last 2 decades. The Leadership Pipeline Transition Principles describe the key leadership roles that you normally experience in an organization and clarify how you add unique value as a leader in each leadership role and how you need to adjust work values, time application, and skills in order to be successful. Some key roles are leading self, leading others, leading leaders, functional leader, and business leader. But different organizations may, of course, have more or fewer roles.
Many leaders tend to underestimate the step from being a leader of others to being a leader of leaders. Often we hear leaders say, "Yes, I know how to lead more people," or, "Yes, I have a bigger organization, but I am still working on the same things." There may be some truth to this statement, but then, at the same time, this mindset may also cause leaders of leaders never fully perform their role and to never truly enjoy their role. As a leader of leaders, you will start adding unique value in a very different way. Let us start by exploring how the value creation fundamentally changes. In the role as leader of others, you deliver results through your team. The point is that the leaders of others improve the overall team result by supporting the individual contributors in improving their results. If you need to improve output by 10%, then besides increasing your own personal output, you need to get each of your team members to increase their output by 10% too. Leaders of leaders, on the other hand, create results through other leaders. Here's a simplified organizational structure. If a leader of leaders has to improve their position's total output by 10%, the new situation, as compared to being a leader of other, is that their position equals the entire organization and not just the team of direct reports. Leaders of leaders lead through other leaders, and the majority of the people creating the results within the organization do not report directly to the leaders of leaders. Consequently, a leader of leaders cannot improve the output from their position by just producing more by themselves or by having the team of direct reports produce more. They need to mobilize the leaders of others in getting their team to increase their production. In this example, the leader of leaders has 4 direct reports and 16 indirect reports. Accordingly, the leader of leaders themselves only represents 1 out of 21 people, or about 4.8% of the total organizational output. This means that even if the leader of leaders improved his or her personal output by 20%, the mathematical impact of the total team output would only be about 0.95%. The point is that the real way for the leader of leaders to improve the overall team result is to support the leaders of others in getting better at driving results through their teams. Accordingly, leaders of leaders uniquely create results by making their leaders of others better leaders. But how hard can this be? Well, maybe not that hard, but nevertheless, you can easily trip here. Leaders of leaders often find that they get far away from the real business now that they have a layer of leaders between themselves and the employees. Some leaders of leaders may even have 2 layers between themselves and the frontline employees. They are frustrated that things don't happen with the desired pace. They are uncomfortable getting information through other leaders instead of from the frontline employees directly, and they feel that their direct reports are not leading the team the way they would have done it themselves. Accordingly, many leaders of leaders tend to step down in the organization, overpowering their direct reports, and start doing the work that the leaders of others should be doing. Some of the typical pitfalls of a leader of leaders are considering leadership as something on top of the job, failing to develop their direct reports into effective leaders, holding direct reports responsible only for technical proficiency, following up directly on individual contributors instead of following up through the leader of others, valuing completing tasks themselves over their leadership role. Moving from a role as leader of others to leader of leaders simply calls for a fundamental adjustment in work values, time application, and skills. A leadership transition. Work values. The most important thing is that you need to start valuing the leadership work over completing tasks yourself. As we saw earlier, your unique value add is making your direct reports better leaders. You achieve results through leaders, contrary to getting results through individual contributors. You deliver results by building an efficient unit that drives productivity, efficiency, and alignment across the value chain. You achieve results by recruiting and developing the right leaders of others to work for you and by holding them accountable for their execution power and managerial capabilities. You have to ask yourself, what really makes me proud? Is it completing work myself, or is it making other leaders better leaders? Time application. When you move from leading a team to leading an organization, you will start spending much more time on the people side of the business. You will also spend time on long-term planning, 2 or 3 years ahead, both on the business side as well as the people side. You will find that if you do not set aside time for long-term planning, you are always the victim of circumstances rather than influencing the circumstances. Many leaders of leaders feel that they spend too much time in internal meetings across the organization instead of being with their teams. But this is often an important part of the job for leaders of leaders. You create room for your organization to get the job done by managing stakeholders across the organization. You will spend a lot of time building relationships up and down the organization. Skills. Independent of your context, there are some fundamental leadership skills that you need to acquire. You need to be able to develop and execute operational plans. You have to understand the overall business strategy and translate this into operational plans, which your direct report can then execute. You need to ensure that there is a clear line of sight from the overall business goals to the activities taking place in the front line of your organization. To ensure timely execution, you need to delegate not just tasks, but also authority for decision-making. Furthermore, you must manage the boundaries to other parts of the organization and, at the same time, prevent organizational silo formation. You have to effectively allocate resources among your team in an ever-scarce resources environment. It is important that you focus on coaching and developing leaders. People develop on the job, and you are the one person who can ensure that your leaders are developed as leaders. This requires a structured approach to development and ongoing coaching and feedback. You need to be good at assessing leadership qualities. You depend on good leaders, and you are responsible for developing good leaders. But this starts with understanding their current performance level as leaders. This is not easy. How often do you see them in a leadership situation? You need to develop a plan for how to gather facts on their performance, develop plans for your direct reports, and based on those, providing development opportunities and ongoing coaching. This is a formative process, not an annual event. Selecting leaders and building the organization is a key task for a leader of leaders and requires substantial involvement. You need to plan ahead with your organization and ask yourself the questions: what capabilities do I need 3 years from now? Where do I have people with further potential in my organization? Who will not be able to meet my requirements 12 months from now, and how do I deal with this? The important thing is to stay ahead of the wave. It is important to recognize that work values, time application, and skills are interdependent. You cannot master your transition by adjusting one and not the others. For instance, your work values guide how you spend your time, because you will tend to do the things that are most interesting to you first and where you believe you add the most value. Your skills will also guide how you spend your time. People like doing what they are good at and what they previously reaped recognition for. So, one of the keys in successful transitions lies in dedication to becoming good at what is now required of you. This will shift your work values, and you will start to appreciate what you need to do and find it easier to spend time on the right activities. The leadership pipeline is a holistic model that should be tailored to the need and challenges of your organization, not the other way around. For further inspiration, visit leadershippipelininstitute.com.